We're going live. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi Daniel. Hi Daniel. Thank you for the mugs and for the trees, the myrtles. Yeah, for the myrtles. Alright, so
It was a secret.
start the varim.
Parece chilito. Parece turco. Didn't understand that.
We got beautiful glare still. Can't do much about the glare. Maybe.
It was actually good to be able to read the whiteboard last week as well, by the way.
Are you able to read it?
You can't read it.
No, I could because I was actually going the right way instead of backwards.
Are you talking about his olive?
Behave.
No macaroons for him, right?
Macaroons the French president.
There are consequences to that misbehavior.
The right way?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it by the right way?
Anyway.
Now that he's
Yeah, now don't be vengeful. It's not coming of you. Oh, we're learning the AB.
Looking your way.
ABC.
What is it? La clase de Pablo.
Pastor Pablo.
Pastor Pablo.
Yeah.
What did you say?
How can we know we are in the same class? No, but
Yeah, how do we know?
Pablo.
Jesse, can you write there?
The same Pablo.
Pastor Pablo Star.
Pablo's Torah class.
Yeah, because these people might think they're on the wrong stream.
When they hear you, Chris, they'll say we're in the right stream.
Well, they've already heard him.
Wrong way, wrong way.
No, it's the right
What
one.
if I'm in the wrong stream?
Oh, yeah.
Now, that might be a thought.
Wow, really makes me think. Wow. What do you watch on Netflix?
Gotta take a Sunday off.
No, you're not looking through.
What does your mom watch on Netflix?
Things I'm going right around.
Anything really.
Okay.
Nothing.
Gotcha. Awesome. Daniel's online.
Daniel's
What's the thing?
Okay. Mic on? Do you hear me well?
13 reasons.
1, 2, 3. I've been told my voice is too low, so I have to wear a mic. That I'm loud. Okay. Let's pray. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, thank you for your beautiful Shabbat. Thank you for the people that you bring every week, for your children everywhere in this world that you are rescuing, that you are bringing out of darkness into the light. Father, we thank you for Yeshua Messiah, who gave his life for us, allowing us to graft in and become a part of Israel. Father, as we read your word, we ask that you would speak to us, that you would fulfill the purpose for which you send your word to us, and that you will bless us, give us a blessing, Father, wherever we are, and that you will speak to us into our hearts, according to your word, according to your desire in us. Father, may I disappear at this time, may only your words come out, and everything that we'll discuss today, Lord, may it be done for your glory, that you be exalted. In Yeshua's name, we pray for your blessing. Amen. Amen. Okay, so we've been going through Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 9. We're going chapter by chapter, verse by verse. So, still got a few chapters to get to the end of it. Part 1,500. Alright, so we're back to verse 25. Who would like to read it? Somebody read verse 25 first? Okay, we'll put down here and read it.
So I fell down before Yehovah the 40 days and 40 nights. For I fell down because Yehovah had said he would destroy you.
I fell down. Now, I don't know if you know the Hebrew for falling down.
Nafal.
Yep. Nafal. We've heard another word that's similar to that one. Anybody can think of that one? Nephilim. Very good. Everybody knows Nephilim.
Nafali.
The fallen ones.
Yeah.
Nephilim. Nafal is the singular version of it. Nephilim is the plural version of the word. It means to fall, to cast down, or to overthrow. It has the understanding of a king being overthrown from his throne, or someone falling violently to the ground. Not just you're sitting down kind of slowly.
Can I shop?
Okay. No, please. No insurance. Okay. Moses telling the people, I threw myself down, right? I fell down, on my face before Yehovah. And in the Hebrew, it talks about this word here. I'll try to write it. Forgive my Hebrew. I'm still learning. Ve'etz. Na. Hey. Nafal. Nafal lam. Okay. Ve just means and. And there's this word in there, at. Anybody knows what at means?
You.
Right, we know it in the Paleo Hebrew as that.
Right.
Anybody know that symbol from before? We've studied it before.
Wasn't it?
The Aleph Tav? What's that symbol about?
Hit.
Authority. Strength. Power.
Mm-hmm. The strong one of the mark of the covenant, right? The strong one of the covenant. You should have said, I am the Aleph and the Tav. Right? So whenever you see Aleph Tav, it's usually related to something to do with Messiah. And then we got this word here, which is Nafal. And Aleph Tav, Nafal, fell down. There's no reason to have this Aleph Tav in the word, in the Hebrew, by the way. There's no reason I could actually find as to why that Aleph Tav is in there. So that made me think about some things. Anyway, we'll continue before we go there. And then it says, I fell down on my face. La. Oh my text is like that. Kids.
Yeah, but how beautiful are the drawings?
Sorry, sorry.
They've been learning Hebrew.
Yeah.
Writing Hebrew.
Le. Panim. Pa. Nun. Nun. Panim.
He was fast.
Panim. Okay. Usually we have that one with a mem at the end, panim, my face. That's just another form of the verb. Right? Means on my face. On.
So this is what Moses said?
Yeah.
No.
So I fell down on my face. Right? In other words, face down. Before Yehovah. So we have Yehovah next. What's the Hebrew for Yehovah? Yud Hey Vav Hey. Hey, right? Before Yehovah, and guess what's after Yehovah? Anybody?
Et.
Very good. Aleph, Tav. Right?
The beginning again.
So we got Aleph, Tav, Aleph, Tav. And Aleph, Tav, I threw myself on my face before Yehovah, Aleph, Tav. Right? When we have Yehovah, Aleph, Tav, it's usually talking about Yeshua. Right? Yeshua said, I am the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, right? What I found interesting was this first one here. Why is it inside this word? Right? He fell on his face because
He interceded.
there was something about it, right? Moses is the symbol of Messiah, right? Or the type of Messiah. Right? So when he's talking about he fell on his face as an intercessor before God, he's showing the nature of Messiah. Right? So in this word we have the nature of Yeshua shown, or his signature in it, to show that this is the role of Messiah. Right? This is the role of his people as well. Right? As we come into the Torah and to the millennial period. So this is the signature of Messiah. Just found that very interesting in this verse when we're talking about Moses interceding before the Father. We have these two things there. All right. Romans 11:36. Someone can read it. Someone else.
Romans what?
11:36. So I'll write it again. Romans 11:36.
For of him and through him and to him are all things. To him be glory forever. Amen.
So from him, in my version anyway.
From of him.
Yep. By him. What's the last one? For him.
For of him
To
and
him.
through him and to him.
Yeah. So from or through is the same thing, and by him and for him. What's the rest part of the verse? All things were created, so that all things give glory to him forever. Right? It's all about him. Yeah? It's all about him. So when we're looking at the scriptures and we're looking at all these different aspects of it, you gotta remember this part of it. It all comes from him. It was all given from him. He was there before Abraham was, right? He was at the beginning. Bereshit, he was at the beginning. He was the creator. By him, all things came to be, that are, and all things were made for him. Right? In fact, in the millennium, he is the king ruler over the earth, and then he hands the kingdom and the power back to the Father, right? So he's in control of everything. Everything is about Yeshua. In the end, all things lead back to Yeshua. Okay? It's important that we understand that he's the core of our faith. And to him be all honor sometimes. Today I don't feel like giving honor. Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. No, forever, right? Olam. Olam, forever. As far as I can see, Olam. As Yehovah said, the next part of that verse says 25, says verse 25, Devarim 9. As Yehovah said, right, that Yehovah there has no Aleph Tav. So we're talking about the Father at that point, right? Now Aleph Tav means we're talking about the Father. When the Father talks, it's a command, right? When Yeshua talks, there's all kinds of different things happening. Creation, correction. But when the Father talks, it's usually a command, right? As Yehovah has said, that He would destroy you. Aleph Tav. Right? So the one that executes the judgment of destruction is Aleph Tav. It's Yeshua. He comes to execute judgment upon the earth, right? We see that in Revelations when He returns. And His robes are red from the blood of His enemies. Okay? I know, negative, sorry. But Yeshua is also a consuming fire. He's a good guy. He's loving. But He's also a judge. And Yehovah said, the Father said that He would destroy you. Now the word destroy, this is coming from brother Daniel, right? So I'm giving honor to whom it belongs. I didn't pick this up. Destroy, in this case, is the word. Yep. Shem, Mem, Dalet. Shemda or Shemdi. Shemad. It's there. Or the verb there is Shemad. It means to destroy. Right? It actually means to make desolate. Not just destroy, but make desolate. Completely wipe out, right? Because Yehovah said He would make you desolate. He will wipe you out. What the interesting thing about this is very close related to another word that we know very well.
Shem. Shemesh.
No. Alright. Stop it.
Shema.
Alright? Yeah. I know. That's what I'm trying to do.
It's
Okay.
just a Y.
Yeah, just a Y on the low end. Okay. Shema, Ayin. Shema, here and obey, right? Here. Shema. Right, okay, so. Shema Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Hear Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Yehovah your God, Yehovah is one. And this one is Shemad. This one comes from Brother Daniel, so you can blame him. And the difference between these two is these two letters. Right? So it's got the same root, but the end letter is different. So I was thinking about it, why they're so closely related. And so I went to our old understanding, and I looked at it from the ancient Hebrew, right? The pictograph Hebrew, and it says Shem. It's what? Shem in the pictograph Hebrew means to the teeth. 2 teeth means to cut. It can also mean to destroy. Yep. What's the next letter? Mem. Mem is. What is it?
Water.
Water. It can also be blood. Right? It can also be the womb. Water and blood brings us to the womb. Womb? Wombat. Okay. And let's put the last letter. So Dalet is, what's a Dalet? The door is a 10th flap. 10th flap. Or door. Alright. And what's the other one? The ayin. Is the eye. It means to see or to understand.
Is that why it sounds like I?
Has to do with the mind, thoughts. As a man sees with his eyes. Right? The way we see. So what do you think it means? Now we've got this. We added to that and to that.
Cut the womb door. Destroy the blood thought.
There's no wrong answers. Come on, feel free.
Sorry, what's it called again?
Water into the eye.
So teeth, what I die, yeah,
Door
could
to
be that.
destroy. Door to the womb destroy.
Teeth, cut, destroy. Since we're talking about the word make desolate, for example.
The doorway to destroy.
Destroy.
The door to the destroy.
Alright, let's take the first one.
Door blood destroy.
The teeth, cut, destroy. Yeah, because we're talking about the word destroy, make desolate. The teeth,
Destroy the way to the door.
destroy.
Good job, Mum.
Blood.
Water.
The womb
Womb.
can also be like the center, the source of life, the source of stuff. Yeah. To destroy the source
The doorway to the source.
that leads to
The door.
the door. Who's the door?
Yeshua.
He said, I am the door.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Yeshua. And Yeshua means what?
Salvation.
Okay.
To destroy the doorway.
Yeah. So to cut off the source, to destroy the source
Salvation.
that brings us to the door, that brings us to salvation, right? It means to make desolate. There's no return, right? You are destroyed completely. There's no salvation for you, right? So that's the first understanding. The second one is the same. We have the teeth, the womb. So to cut or to destroy,
Understand.
what we see with our eyes, right? What's faith?
What we can't see.
What we can't see, right? So salvation, or to hear and obey, what brings us to salvation, which is to hear and obey Shema, is bound to the destruction of the source of what we see with our eyes, our human understanding,
Let it go.
right? Our human thoughts,
It's good.
right? It is by faith that we attain salvation, yeah? Not by human understanding.
No.
By our own efforts. All right. So now you know. Okay. Verse 26.
I prayed, that one?
Mm-hmm.
I prayed therefore unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand.
Amen. I prayed. I palal. Palal. Why not tefillah?
Spelled the same way.
Very good.
What?
It's not a D, it's a P.
Right? Because when we talk about tefillim, right? The prayers, and usually we use the word tefillim or tefillah, something along those lines to denote prayer. Yeah. So, tet, sorry, tav. Then we have right, so we got the same word in there. Sorry, there's a bit of Hebrew going on today, but it's important that we see the connections. When we're talking about that he prayed, palal, it's talking about the same verb. Okay, tefillah, the same verb. So very good, Chris. It means to intervene, to make judgment, not just prayer as we understand it. It means to intervene, to make judgments. Where do we see that happening in our modern days? In an easy example. Someone intervenes, someone makes a judgment, someone comes out to defend you.
Lawyer.
Lawyer, right? In a court of law.
Sometimes they defend you.
Sometimes they defend you if you give them enough money. That's right.
Most of the time they defend their pockets.
If you give them enough money, they'll
Have to
defend.
defend you to defend their pockets.
Alright. So
That's the legal way.
that's the concept of prayer. The concept of prayer is the same. It's a legal defense. Our concept of intercession is considered a legal defense before the Father, right? According to the Torah. To find a legal Torah-based atonement is how we intercede, how we pray. The concept of the evangelist, we talked about the evangelist, the gift of evangelists, right? The evangelist in Torah has nothing to do with what Christianity shows.
With being charismatic.
Yeah, being charismatic and not knowing much of the word, right? I was taught in Bible college, the evangelist really doesn't need to go to Bible college. You just need to know a few key verses like Romans 3:23.
Go with your personality.
Which
Right?
Bible college?
The Roman road to
And you hit
salvation.
the ground running.
And you'll be okay, right? He really doesn't need to know much. That's what we're taught at Pentecostal Bible College, which is part of the doctrine, and they have the reasons for it.
And yet,
But in the Torah, we find the evangelists as well. Did you know that?
Wow.
John the Evangelist, I mean, he knew.
Yeah. So all the gifts of the Spirit are found in the Torah. Do you know that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all found in the Torah. There's nothing new under the sun, said
Amen.
Ecclesiastes, right? Everything that has been will be also. So everything that the Father was going to do, he says he will reveal to his prophets. So if he hasn't revealed it to his prophets and you find something new, it's probably added in or false. Okay? The evangelist is found in Job, of all books. Chapter 33, somebody can go there and read it. Loud and clear from 23 to 28. Ascension gift of evangelist.
If there be a messenger with him, an interpreter, one among 1,000 to shew unto man his uprightness, then he is gracious unto him, and saith, Deliver him from going down to the pit. I have found a ransom. His flesh shall be fresher than a child's. He shall return to the days of his youth. He shall pray unto God, and he will be favorable unto him, and he shall see his face with joy, for he will render unto man his righteousness. He looketh upon men, and if any say, I have sinned and perverted that which was right, and it profited me not, he will deliver his soul from going into the pit, and his life shall see the light.
Right?
That it?
So an evangelist, in essence, is a lawyer.
Wow.
Right? I have found a ransom. In other words, an atonement. Some Bibles translate it as an atonement. I have found an atonement for that man's sin. In other words, the evangelist needs to be a lawyer in the Torah. Not just a few verses, right? He needs to be acquainted with the Torah internally. I mean, he must know it inside out. Right? He's looking for a way to save this man's soul. To save a man's soul, you need to know what the law says. And you need to be able to apply that law to that man. Right? So an evangelist is really, in the Torah, a lawyer. One that seeks out an atonement for man. A priest, in a way. He is also a messenger of good news because he brings the atonement, right? I have found this Torah that makes you acquitted from your sin, right? It atones for your sin. If you do this and if you do that, you'll be free from that burden. So, how does it fit? Very different, right? We'll go through some of the gifts of the Spirit again through Sukkah. We'll put them into practice. We're actually going to do physical workshops on the gifts of the Spirit. I'm trying to work that in.
Everyone's going to be hanging out to see the gift of miracles.
Yeah.
We got the box on Hadrian.
Daniel's going to do some of those.
Wow, miracle.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Turn the water into blood. No.
He's going to teach
I'm sure Katrina won't mind turning the thing into blood. The dead?
As soon as you can put it back.
He's going to like
Ah,
agree with that.
You're going to have to talk to Daniel about that. Or Aaron. We got Aaron? Ah, there we go. We'll bring the rock. Alright. We also spoke about the evangelists being people, not powers, right?
Yeah.
All the gifts of the Spirit are not powers. They're just people that have been anointed and gifted with an ability. Whether it be a supernatural ability or, whatever it'll be. But they're people. They're not, electricity floating through the air and strikes you like lightning and all of a sudden. Yeah,
Super speed.
Yeah, his
I don't know.
answer.
Can you take him back and deliver him?
When are you doing
And I
that?
prayed. Huh?
Sorry, when will you be doing that? Because-
Sukkah.
Oh, better be there.
During Sukkah. Yeah, we'll do some
You
workshops.
coming there?
Yes,
So-
I need tents and...
Yeah,
Anyway, later.
and porta toilets. Okay.
Tire and a shovel.
No shovels. And said Adonai Yehovah. Right? In the second part of that verse it says, and he said, Yehovah, Adonai Yehovah, do not destroy. Right? So Moses said to Adonai, the Lord, or the Master Yehovah, do not destroy. That word destroy there is mar. Where do we find that word mar? Boys?
Wait, what? For which word?
Mar. It's a different destroy word. It means it's a word mar.
Oh, the beard.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It took a woman to say it.
Yeah.
Said it.
Aaron said it. Ah, okay. Sorry, Aaron.
Okay.
Do not mar the corners of your beard, right? The commandment about the beards. Do not destroy. What's interesting about that word is that it's more like tearing out pieces of it. Right? It's not just destroying it as in cutting it, shaving, but it's more about tearing pieces of it with your hands, kind of thing. Yeah, tore pieces out of it. In fact, there was a custom in the ancient world where they would grab stones and actually skin themselves with the stones and take pieces of their beard with the stone as part of a mourning ritual for the dead. Okay, I think some places they still do that.
Got a large family.
Similar to the stuff where they hit their heads with swords and bleed themselves.
That's awful.
I don't know if you've seen that as well.
Yeah.
There's still some places where they practice that sort of stuff. They bleed themselves into the earth. So mar has to do with that. So Moses says to Jehovah, do not mar them, do not tear them. Do not tear your people. Why was he saying that to God? Because God said he would obliterate them, but he says, do not tear them.
What? You saying?
So Jehovah said that he was going to
He would
destroy his people.
completely wipe them out, but it says, do not tear out your people.
And Moses said, don't tear out your people.
Mhm.
So Moses, the father said, it's not destroy all of them. And
Yeah. I think maybe Moses didn't get the full picture of what God was saying. Right? Or he was thinking back at the time when God says, I will wipe them out and I will make from you a new nation, right? So he thought maybe not all of them will be wiped off. Whatever, you know. But it's interesting to see the differences in what's happening there. Moses' intercession was focused on what was best for the people, right?
yeah.
No. Sorry. Just being cheeky there. Moses' intercession was based on what was God for Jehovah's reputation. Let's read it again. Verse 26 and 27. So we'll go into 27 as well.
That one I prayed, therefore.
Which verse do you know?
Yeah. I pray therefore.
I pray therefore unto the Lord, and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sin. Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole point of the intercession was to uphold God's greatness
Integrity and
before the people, right? What are they gonna say?
yeah.
You took him out to destroy them. You know, don't do that because that will, stain your name, your reputation. Right? So what Moses was concerned not so much about the people themselves, but God's reputation. And you will find that people that do intercede, they usually intercede in that sort of facet. Right? We are to be concerned with the kingdom more than just the people. Yep. So our focus is God's glory, God's name and reputation. But there's an issue for that, right? We'll talk about that in a second. There's also another part there where he talks about the promise to the three men, right?
Yeah. Abraham, Isaac,
Abraham, Isaac, or Yitzhak, and Jacob. God's promise, he's bound himself to his word, right? He made a covenant. He made a promise to these three men, amazing men, right, who are our forefathers, the fathers of our faith. And God made them a promise, right? And because God does not change, he needs to fulfill this promise, right? So Moses is reminding him of this promise, of the covenant that he made. Right? Why these people, even though they're so stubborn and they have all these issues, so don't wipe them out because of that stuff, but remember your covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the promise you made them. Right? So if you went for these three guys, guess what? We'll be in trouble. Big trouble. And we talked about these three guys before, right? They had some amazing faith that we should all try to attain to. Yeah, we should look into their lives to really understand what they were like. Verse 27, we saw at the beginning it says, remember. We know that word in Hebrew is Zachar, yeah? When we get the word Zachariah, remember Yah. Remember, have memory or think back. Memorial. The second word there is Ebed, your servant, a slave. From the root meaning to till. Right? So a hireling, someone that is hired to till the ground for you. A laborer. Right? So this man labored for God. They worked for God. They were his servants. Abraham means what? Ab? Father? What about the second part? Hema or Hama? Haman.
Many nations.
Haman. Or Haman. Or coming from the word Hama. Hamas. Hama.
You're not allowed to say Haman.
Hama. Comes from the verb Chaya. Chaya. Anybody know what Chaya means?
Life.
Life, yep. Existence. To exist. It's one of the part of the name of God. Ehir, Asher, Ehir. I am that I am, from the verb Chaya. I exist. I am the existent one, the ever-existing one.
The black Hebrew Israelites pronounce Yehovah as Ahaya.
Ahaya, yeah. Here, some places. Chama actually comes from the word to make noise. Noise. Noisy ones. Right? The noisy ones. In terms of a multitude. Right? Chema means day as well. Come on, day. And there's a bad word there as well that can fit into Haman. It means murmuring. I thought that was quite fitting. Right? Those who murmur. So there's a dual nature to that second part. A multitude, a noisy multitude that exists. So the father of all that exists. Kind of thing, the father of all the multitude of people. Just a few interesting words that come out from that second part. Yitzhak. Anybody knows Yitzhak?
He laughs.
He laughs. Yep. Laughter. Yep. Laughter. I found this one quite interesting.
Mock.
It can be used as mockery. Right? It literally means to have a laugh.
That's what Sarah did, isn't it?
Huh?
Isn't that what Sarah did?
They both laughed. Sarah did in mockery at the beginning. Some say no, it wasn't mockery. Anyway, it's a whole debate on that. But Abraham laughed as well. He enjoyed to have a laugh, right? There's no morality in the actual word, but it's a dual nature word. Right? You can use it for good or for evil. You can have the good or the evil on it. So you can have both parts to it. To have a laugh. Jacob is a good one. Anybody knows what it means?
Supplanter.
Doesn't it mean deceiver, liar?
It's the heel.
Yeah, because he can, when he was born, he was holding the heel.
Holding the heel. It means to circumvent.
Or to
Yeah,
attack.
I guess
So circumvent, to supplant. Supplant, and to overreach.
Guilty as,
Put your hand where you shouldn't.
guilty as God.
To extend your hand before past what you should. It also has links to a man's buttocks.
That's interesting. Why?
Yeah. What happened to Jacob when he fought with God?
Ah, yeah.
He got hit in the sciatic nerve.
Got hit on the
Dislocated his hip. Some say probably the backside was where he got hit.
I thought it was the inner thighs.
Yep, on the inner thigh. There's other theories. Just interesting that was there. Deceiver, right? His name was changed to.
Israel.
What does Israel mean?
Prince?
No?
Struggle.
Yeah, Israel, that's a prince or to raise their heads. Someone who raises their heads. Yeah. And what?
Struggle.
Struggles, right? Fights. Or wrestles.
With God.
And El means God. He who fights with God, he who wrestles with God. He was named Israel because he fought with man and God and survived and prevailed. That's what the scripture tells us, right? What did he wrestle for? What was he wrestling the angel? For a blessing. Why do you think he wrestled for a blessing? What's the big deal about a blessing?
Because he never actually got the blessing. Please.
He needed one.
What about the Catholic thing, you know? Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. Is that the same thing? Or?
No.
No, right. To be blessed by God means He's changed your nature.
Yeah. I mean, he would have been so fully aware of how he took the blessing to his brother, so he would have,
He was tired of being this
Yeah.
person. He
yeah.
didn't want to be this person anymore. Bless me or I die.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't let you go
Yeah,
until you bless me,
yeah,
until you change me,
exactly.
until you change my heart.
Yeah.
Like he was willing to die, and he knew
Yeah. And
he was
that's
fighting with something supernatural. He could easily kill him,
I love
destroy
that.
him.
That's how we should be. We should
Fearless
wrestle.
man,
Yeah.
fearless man. You know, we need just a couple of these guys. Take the whole world for the Torah. You know? Fearless, fearless. But in the past he wasn't, right? He was not fearless in the past. He lied a few times, didn't he? He cheated his way around. He lied to his dad. Dishonored him, right? But one thing he knew is the importance of the firstborn blessing.
That's right.
He knew the importance of the firstborn blessing. When his brother was mucking around and who knows doing what, this man had an understanding of what it meant to be the firstborn. And he was always searching for his blessing. Even when he was doing that stuff with his dad, he was searching to change himself, to become different, to be a different man. Where am I? I lost. Sorry. Just a second. Talk among yourselves.
Ian, how's your week been? Or you call it good?
27, okay. There's a phrase that appears there which took me, Aaron, and Daniel
5 hours.
hours and hours just to work out what this phrase was about. It's a weird, really weird phrase. It's divided into two parts. When Moses says to God, do not turn your face, do not turn and look at their stubbornness, right? That part there is El Tapen. Altapen. Altapen.
Is that a Spanish word?
No, this is Hebrew. Altapen. And then the other part is El Ki Kashi. Al-Kashi. I'm not going to go into writing all the Hebrew for you, but there were a few issues with the actual Hebrew grammar on these two verses, or the understanding of it, because al is a word that appears in different forms and it means a whole bunch of different things. But in this case, it's translated as a negative. As a negative verb, what's it called? What's the word when it comes before? Preposition. As a negative preposition. So that was a big problem there. Didn't understand why they were translated as negative. Apparently it comes, if you want to know, I'll write this down, it's a jussive form. The verb is a jussive form. So they're going to study a bit more Hebrew. Jussive form. It appears in a few places. Genesis 13:8 was for me the one that gave me the understanding of what it meant. Can we read Genesis 13:8?
And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren.
Yeah. Let there be no strife. Again, that word was used in the negative form. Let there be no strife. So it was used there in the negative. That's why they use it here as well in negative. And it has a negative connotation. Do not. It has to do with facing off or facing against someone. Right? Tapen begins with a tav. We know what letter tav is. What does it mean, tav, in the pictograph Hebrew?
Mark.
It's a mark, right? And pen, anybody know what pen, we talked about it just before?
Face.
Penne, right? Face. So do not mark the face, right? What do we do when we turn towards someone really intently
We stare at them.
to attack them, right? Or to strike, right? We turn we're marking them, we're measuring, right? We set him as a target. We're marking for destruction, right? That's what that was saying. Don't mark them for destruction, because of the stubbornness. That's an interesting word as well, right? Because or towards, to. The stubbornness is the same word we translated before as stiff neck. Stiff neck. Stubborn. Well, we said stubbornness is as what?
Sin of witchcraft.
No, that was rebellion. Very good. Same verse. Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Stubbornness is as idolatry. Idolatry. Very good. So,
And when you think about it, yeah, you
Kashi has to do with idolatry. And I think it goes back to Cushites. Anyway.
yeah. Okay.
It's not a nice thing to say. Like
I know, that's racist. For Cushites. Cushites,
King James was a Cushite.
the Egyptians are descendants of Cush, right? Cush. Ethiopians as well.
Beit Tzion.
El, we've talked about El in the pictograph Hebrew. It's a strong, what's Lamed? The shepherd staff. A strong leading. It appears in the Ten Commandments all the way through. El. Yep. Law is the other way around. You have the Aleph on the other one. To lead with strength. It's a negative thing because you are led by force. Law means no. Law means no. And then it goes and towards their wickedness. Wickedness is Resha. Talked about Resha before. Word wickedness. Anybody remember Resha? No?
Rasha.
Resh.
Head.
The face?
Pictograph Hebrew.
Head.
Resh.
Rasha. Wicked.
Yep. Shin. Ain.
See.
Resha.
It looks like ants.
Wickedness.
That's an egg. Bacon and eggs. Turkey bacon.
Yep. So the eye. Ain is to see, to understand. Vision. Yeah. Cut. Destroy. What's Resh?
Head.
The head.
Authority.
Authority.
Rashala.
Leader.
Later.
Right? What does it mean to raise one head? To raise one's head?
Pride.
It.
That's like stiffness again.
To raise one's head above the rest. Pride, yep.
And prejudice.
To raise one's head above others leads to rebellion, right?
Which is also idolatry, right?
Witchcraft.
Witchcraft. Like the best.
Yeah, rebellion is witchcraft.
Yeah.
So rebellion,
No rebelling.
witchcraft.
But in the natural,
Yeah.
when you're proudful, rebellious and all that, that's all idolatry.
Yeah, it's self-idolatry.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-idolatry. Witchcraft is manipulation for the sake of self-idolatry. Witchcraft is manipulation.
What do you do?
The one should be ahead.
Manipulation.
I mean, you exalt yourself. Anything that exalts itself.
What's wrong?
Self-exaltation.
Your rule becomes more
Yeah.
important than
Yeah.
anything else.
And they're both linked. You can't be rebellious without being stubborn, and you can't be stubborn without being rebellious. So they go together. They're unified. The wickedness one means to raise your head, right? To rebel,
Rebel.
so as to destroy. division. To destroy the understanding. What are we talking about? Which understanding are we trying to destroy?
Torah.
The Torah.
Torah. To rebel against the Torah is what we call wickedness, which fits with our understanding, right? Of what is sin. Sin is transgression of the law, right? To transgress the law, then you have to raise yourself against the law.
Feel that, yeah.
Right? You have to become wicked.
Yeah.
And towards their offense, sin, chata, which is transgression of the law again, which is what we talked about before. Verse 28. Let's read verse 28.
Lest the land from which you brought us should say, because Jehovah was not able to bring them to the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness.
Okay. So, let's recap. Chata is sin. Lest the land from where you brought us, Mizraim, right, Egypt, should say, who cares what they say, right? Why do we care what Mizraim will say?
The second commandment.
Huh?
The second commandment.
Third. Very good. Right, do we know the commandments? We should know the 10 commandments by now. Can we do the first 5? Just paraphrase the first one.
I am Jehovah your God.
Don't make your
The first one.
I am Jehovah your God.
Yehovah,
There shall be no God.
your El.
And you shall
There
have.
shall
No
be
gods
no
before
other
him.
God.
You shall have no other gods before him. Is that part of the first one, second one?
Verse.
Depends on how you look at it. Some places they divide it, but
And the Samaritans don't even consider that part of it.
yeah. Good. Actually, in the pictograph you have 2 Yahs. You shall have no other Yah, supplanting the first Yah. Anyway. What's the second one?
You do not make carved image.
No,
Carved image.
Carved image.
Carve an image.
The Catholics don't have that one.
And they took it off.
Is it terrible?
They also changed the Sabbath to Lord's Day.
Yes.
And then they changed the Sabbath to the Lord's Day.
Yes.
So carve an image in his likeness, huh?
Yeah, and
What else?
Thou shalt not use
God's
God's name in vain.
What's the second part of that one?
Don't bow down to worship.
Bow down to worship. Not bow down to worship, serve, worship it. Right? Third one,
Thou shalt not take Jehovah's name in vain.
do not take
the Lord's name in vain.
Jehovah's
Name. Shem.
character, reputation,
And reduce it to nothing.
right? Shem, word Shem in the Hebrew does not necessarily mean just name. It's character, reputation, everything that has to do with a person, right? Name included. Name to bring it to
Nothing.
not. Not to make it nothing. Nothing to do with vanity, right? As we used to be, we used to think, nothing to do with vanity. Just bring his name to naught. Right? And here we have the 2 examples, right? The Jews don't say the name, right? They don't pronounce it. The Jews don't pronounce it. And the Christians,
Sorry, why don't the Jews pronounce it again?
The Romans banned it.
Sorry?
The Romans banned it, and then they made it so that it will remain as law forever until Messiah comes.
So they
So-
forbid, but the Jews forbid to say his name.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the Jews forbid to pronounce it, and the Christians
They changed it.
changed it.
They do too.
Right? So no longer Yeshua is the J word.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's no longer Yehovah is Lord.
Yeah.
Checking your Bibles, Christian Bibles, so we've got Lord, capital L-O-R-D. Right? Every time you see that, it's actually that. Actually, it's this.
On average, it appears 7 times per page.
Yeah. Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yehovah.
The Spanish got it right. Jehovah.
Jehovah. Yeah, close. Close. Now the exact pronunciation, that's a different story altogether. But at least we should know what his name is and not change it. Not bring it to nothing. Yeah? Which is exactly what the J word means. Anyway, we're not going to get into that one.
What about, is the Lord's name in vain? Would that be the same as behaving opposite to what you know you should be behaving? So it's not just about, what you wrote, but even our own behavior. When we misbehave and act not according to the way He taught us, has shown us to be, we also then take His name in vain.
Yeah. Anything that diminishes his character, his reputation, or his name, if we are called by his name in anything of our actions or
So
whatever,
it goes a lot more than
diminishes.
just,
Yeah, exactly. You really. The commandment is very broad.
yeah.
It's not just about swearing, using the name.
It makes sense. 'Cause
Yeah.
You can't look at somebody that's not walking once, saying one thing, doing the other thing, and respect them the same way.
Exactly. So if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves in prayer, right? My name is very important to God. He says He puts His name on that city,
On us.
right? He puts His name on His people. His name is His character, His reputation, everything that is His. To bring or diminish His name, that's why the commandment Deuteronomy 4:2, right? Deuteronomy 4:2, we looked at it before. You are not to add nor diminish from the Torah. Why? Because the Torah has to do with His character, His reputation, with His name. That's His signature, that's His law, that's what He told you. So if you add to the law or you take away from it, you are virtually breaking the third commandment. What's the fourth one? Shabbat.
You should keep it holy.
Shachar. Yeah. Shabbat. Remember. Memorize it. Think back.
And it doesn't mean it's Sunday.
Yeah. Remember the
Like the
Sabbath
Christians
day.
believe.
Right? The Sabbath day, to keep it
Kadosh, holy, set apart.
set apart. Special, right?
Yeah.
1 people.
6 days. 1 peak. I always do that.
Double blessing.
Double bless.
That's not the only word, that's
Set apart. It's a special day, right? 6 days you shall do work. On the 7th you shall rest, because on the 7th day what happened?
God rest.
He rested.
Right. So if God rested, who is God, how dare you don't rest on Shabbat? Right? You're only a creation. He's the
How dare you
ultimate.
not sleep in?
Exactly.
How
Right?
dare you, indeed.
So Shabbat
Remind abuelito that.
is not optional. Right? It's the only commandment where He says, remember.
Because he knew you'd forget.
Yeah, remember it.
Remember.
Remember.
Isn't it
Anyway,
Remember.
you can understand.
It was meant to be remembered, not chanted.
Yeah, that's right. Not change it.
Also interesting, it's the fourth commandment.
Shabbat.
Meaning,
Meaning it's
The Dalit.
the Dalits, which is
yes.
Number 4. Number 4, the Hebrew
I said Dalit the door.
numbering system. The Dalits is the door. The door in the pictograph Hebrew is Yeshua. It's also one of the signs of the covenant. Right? There are 3 signs of the covenant. Everybody know the 3 signs of the covenant?
The rainbow.
The rainbow.
There are 3 signs that God gave us in the covenant.
Here's the one.
Right? The first sign between me and my people, he says, is the Shabbat. Right? There shall be a sign between me and my people, Shabbat.
And that was
Right.
circumcision.
Second, there shall be a sign between me and my people, is circumcision.
That's
CI.
right. It's, yeah.
Yep, circumcision. What's the third one?
the rainbow?
No. I'll give you a clue. Numbers 15.
Oh,
That's it.
That's it.
Yes. You shall wear it. To
Yeah.
remember
The feeling.
your God.
That's it.
We need 3 pairs of 3. Yeah.
No problem. We'll get on to it. So the 3 signs of the covenant between God and His people: Shabbat, circumcision, and tzitzit. If you are His people, and you are male, especially, welcome to the family.
Yeah. Now I feel the pressure.
We'll sort you out on the way out.
Yes, please. Keep it getting.
Bring on the Stanley life, guys.
Yes.
Well, they'll be worried about how far you were going to go on the sorting out.
You got alcohol?
I left my secretaries at Olitos.
We just put wine and olive oil.
I left the secretaries at Olitos.
Secretary.
Snip, snip.
Secretary.
Man,
Oh,
be
that's
careful
not
when you
how
see
it
how
I
it's
like
done.
this man of faith.
You're going to butcher it.
Strong man of faith, secretary.
They think you're joking. They don't know you've seen how it's done.
Yeah, I've seen how it's done.
I
can do it.
I was awake.
You've seen, you've felt it.
Yeah. Anyway, back to it. Alright.
Do not people off now? Come on.
So, what's the 5th commandment? Before we move on?
Honor your
Honor your father and mother.
Sorry guys,
Honor.
just has to go.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming. Bless you. Have a blessed week.
It's the first commandment with promise.
First commandment, only commandment with promise given to us. Honor
Your father so you can
your mother first.
mother, father.
Honor your mother and your father, or your father and your mother. Yeah?
Father and your mother.
Okay. Yeah. Your ab and your ima.
And your pa.
Your ab and your ima.
Oh, yeah.
Right? How do you honor your parents?
or respect them, obey them,
Respect?
honor them,
By behaving.
honor
Being
them.
good
By
children.
bringing a tea.
Anyone was here for Deuteronomy 6?
By keeping the commandments.
Yes.
Anyone was here for
My
Deuteronomy
father,
6?
sister, over there.
But what if your parents tell you not to keep this commandment?
Then
And they are dishonoring God.
What if your parents tell you not to obey?
They are dishonoring. Yeah, that's right.
Then he does
And you were the first
Deuteronomy 13. We haven't gone to Deuteronomy 13. We'll
Hey,
get to
Chris.
Deuteronomy 13.
your hand should be the first to stone them.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 13.
Gee, there will be many.
We'll get there, we'll get there. Don't spoil Deuteronomy 13, people. Anyway,
Broken
It only
families
takes a
already.
couple months to get there, don't worry.
in a couple of months we'll be in Deuteronomy 13 by January next year.
A couple of months, yep, give or take.
Alright, Deuteronomy 13. Honor your father and your mother. Right? The first commandment with promise. That it might go well with you, that it might have long life. Who wants to live long? No?
Not anymore.
Not
Not at this
anymore.
day.
Not anymore.
Man, I have so much to learn. I want to be here for another 900 years. Maybe I'll just pray.
Another 900 years.
You might get a Luther or everybody.
I wanna beat Methuselah.
Decay, so I was like, no.
Imagine the wisdom I will have by 900 years. I'm a baby.
In the millennium, yeah, I want to live
Imagine the number of studies you'll be able to do in 960.
900 years.
We'll finally get to Deuteronomy 13.
That's it. Out. Alright, yeah.
Finally,
Okay.
finish Deuteronomy 13.
Alright, moving on. That was my cue to move on. Alright, verse 39. Verse 39. We honor our father and mother by keeping the commandments that they taught us. So it's a two-edged sword, right? You can't expect your children to honor you if you haven't given them the commandments. If you haven't taught the commandments according to Deuteronomy 6, right? When you sit in your home, when you lie down, when you raise. If you haven't taught the commandments, you cannot demand them to honor you.
So I don't have to honor my parents.
So parents, respect is a different story. This is honoring. And the word there is tied up to your teaching. So if you've taught your children from childhood to obey the commandments, and then they rebel, they go against you, against the commandments, against your own commandments as well, because you have rules in your house, then if they rebel, then they're guilty. They can be tried for, and executed according to Deuteronomy 13, which is yeah. Alright? But you cannot demand for your children to honor you until you've done the work and taught them. So it's a two-edged sword. Yeah.
You don't stone kids nowadays, right?
No, we don't have the full Sanhedrin,
That's right.
and we're not in the land with Messiah at the throne.
Oh wait, it's back.
But it's coming back. Yes, I've said it. It's coming back. When Messiah returns.
Yeah.
Right? It says in the millennium, the soul that sins will perish.
Yeah.
Right? So in the millennium, the soul that sins, that doesn't atone through Messiah, will perish. Okay? So there will be judgments during the millennium. Righteous judgments, yes. So we're coming back to the way things should be. Verse 29. Somebody read the last verse, please. Yes.
Matthew.
Loud and clear.
And they are your people and your inheritance whom you brought out by your great power and by your outstretched arm.
Amen.
And they are your people. Right? So the whole point of the commandment, sorry, before I move on, because I've missed that part, is when we're talking about Egypt, that they should say, why have we brought them out of Egypt to kill them in the desert, right? Who cares what Egypt thinks, right? The third commandment was to honor God's name, to not diminish it, right? His character. So that part, when Moses is interceding and saying, that the people of the land that you took us out of will now say, he took us out of that land to destroy us because he couldn't bring us really into the land. He wasn't unable. So that would diminish God's character and reputation before the people.
That's what
so it wasn't about the people, it was about God's reputation.
That's what actually Moses says. When you read Numbers 14, 14 he actually says that. He literally spells that out.
Yep, read.
It says, and Moses said to Jehovah, then the Mithrites shall hear it. For by your power you brought these people up from the mist. And they shall say to the inhabitants of the land, they have heard that you, Jehovah, are in the midst of these people, and that you, Jehovah, are seen eye to eye, and that your cloud stands above them, and that you go before them in a column of cloud by the day, and a column of fire by night. Now, if you shall kill these people as one man, then the nations which have heard it from the report shall speak, saying, because Jehovah was not able to bring his people to the land which he swore to give them, therefore he killed them in the wilderness. And now I pray, let the power of Jehovah be great, as you have spoken and saying, Jehovah is patient, of great kindness, forgiving wickedness and transgression, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the wickedness of the fathers of the children to the third and fourth generation. Please forgive the wickedness of these people according to the greatness of your kindness, as you have forgiven these people from Mizraim or from Egypt, even until now. And Jehovah said, I shall forgive according to your word. But truly as I live, and as all the earth is filled with the esteem of Jehovah, for none of these men who have seen my esteem and my sons which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness have tried me now for 10 times and have disobeyed my voice, shall see the land and so forth.
Yeah. Amen. So 14 to what was that?
That's at least 14 to 23.
23. Okay. Awesome. So that's the whole prayer really. Verse 29 says, "They are your people." Right. So now Moses is pulling at God's heartstrings. Now you get into God's heart. Okay. This is the good stuff. Okay. It says, God, they're your people. Right. You made them. You took care of them. You promised to Abraham, his descendants. Yeah.
Isn't that a little bit of manipulation there?
What? Nah, sort of. He's just reminding God, because Moses knows God's heart, right? You can pray according to God's heart, right? Says David was a man.
To God.
Yeah.
He's appealing to the
The scripture says that David was a man after God's own heart. What's the heart of God? Your people, your inheritance.
He's making
right? A people that He's made. Who are God's people? What do we call God's people? Israel are God's people. Right? That's why He's got one people.
Chosen people.
He doesn't have many different kingdoms. He's got one kingdom. Kingdom of Israel. They're all over the place now. But it's one people, one God. Right? Anybody can become part of it, but it's one people.
So we can say in that alone, Moses is acting like a lawyer. He's interceding.
Yeah. So Moses was Messiah, which is the embodiment of all the gifts of the Spirit united into one.
He was pleading for their entitlement, like you said.
He was the fulfillment. Your inheritance. Your inheritance goes back to the firstborn. I don't know how else to explain this firstborn right thing, but it's so pivotal in whole of the scripture. Right? The firstborn right is pretty much pivotal in everything. Right? Messiah himself being the firstborn of creation. Right? He is the first fruit. He's the firstborn. Yep.
What happens to secondborn?
Secondborn get taken care of by the firstborn. Right? So the firstborn is tied up to a couple of things. The firstborn is tied up to the rule, right? The kingship, the rule, the authority, the rule or the authority of the house, right?
Providing state.
And the second part of the firstborn is the double portion. Right? What did God say about Israel? Yep.
Is the firstborn son only, or just firstborn?
Firstborn male son that opens the womb. Yep.
Who were the two sisters that appealed to that? I forgot this.
Daughters of Zelophehad.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Zelophehad. Sorry. Daughters of Zelophehad.
Because there were no males, right?
They had no males.
Yeah.
Okay,
There you go,
now
James.
I'll
You gotta
fix the
take
land.
care of all your siblings.
Yeah, there was no firstborn. That's a different law which actually ushers the redemption process with Messiah. It's really good to understand that law. For the most part, the firstborn has two things, right? Rule and authority and a double portion. With the 10 tribes, Judah, the kingdom of Judah, took the firstborn blessing of rule and authority. Joseph was given the double blessing, right? Joseph's son was, the first one was Manasseh. Manasseh and Ephraim, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Manasseh means,
It's a movie.
Manasseh means, forget it.
Forget.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yes.
Forget it.
Yeah.
I said I forgot. Does that count?
Forget it.
Half a mark.
Yeah.
Forgetting the past. Forgetting
Yes.
the things of the past. Forget all that stuff that happened. And moving into our
New.
I remembered.
Who are you?
fruitful,
I remember.
fruitful, double portion. Fruitful double portion.
So
They're
Ephraim
fine.
means fruitful.
Yeah,
And there were sons of Gentile, children of
yeah. Cushites.
Yeah.
Mizraim. Egyptians. Half Egyptian. Right? Their mother was Egyptian. So there goes the Judaism idea that your genealogy comes from your mother. It comes from both, not just from your mother.
Or
You can come from
father.
mainly your father, in this case, firstborn. But what's interesting to see about the firstborn is not always the firstborn that gets the firstborn blessing. Jacob and Esau, who got the firstborn blessing?
Jacob.
He was secondborn.
Yeah.
Why? Because Esau didn't value the firstborn right. He didn't value it. He didn't understand it. He didn't care. Right? Esau, I have hated, says God. Right? Why did God hate Esau?
Disregarded.
Because he disregarded the firstborn
Because he
blessing.
changed it with a meal.
Yeah, red lentils. He sold it for red lentils.
That's why I
He
try to stay
trampled
away
on
from
it, you know?
lentils.
Yeah.
That's a good. I don't like lentils either. There was a meeting before.
Lentils are good for you. Eat lentils.
Now, do not pickle
Take Jacob's
lentils.
example.
Do not pickle lentils. Got nothing to do with it.
Lentils can buy your firstborn rights.
That's it.
There you go.
That's the other side of it.
And note to self: stay
Eat
away
your
from
lentils. Stew them and then keep them in the pot.
Okay, do not
That's
learn.
cool. Anyway. Right, so very important. Firstborn right can go to secondborn, thirdborn, so on and so forth. It is the father that decides when he's ready who's gonna be the leader of their house. Right? But it usually falls to the firstborn male that opens the womb. Because they were designed as priesthood from the beginning. God had appointed them to be priesthood.
Judah was like the fourth one, wasn't he?
Huh?
Judah was like the fourth one.
Yeah, so in the tribes of
That's
Israel.
a good one to explain.
Huh?
That's a good one to explain the why.
Yeah. So what were the brothers' names? I can't remember.
Reuben.
So Reuben was the oldest one.
Misha.
David was the last one.
Reuben.
King
Levi was the third one, right? What's the second one?
Benjamin.
was the last. Come on, man.
Joseph. Joseph was down the lane,
Supposed to drink coffee, not smoke it.
and then
Drink coffee,
Ben,
not smoke. No, but obviously you have.
so Joseph was the 11th.
Order.
Benjamin was the 12th.
Judah, who was that?
Judah was the 4th.
Oh, yes.
Simeon.
Ah, Simeon.
Shimon Bar
1, 2, 3. The 4th.
Issachar.
Issachar, Zebulun, Naphtali,
Issachar, no.
Dan. Anyway,
Naphtali.
Naphtali.
That's it, you're right.
We get there.
Quick.
Dan.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Nafta in Spanish is, or in Uruguay at least, is fuel.
That's right.
See?
And actually comes from a Hebrew word which is a type of fuel that they used to make, a liquid. Naphtali. So Naphtali has to do with the fuel for the fire. Anyway, Levi, Judah. Judah was the fourth one. What happened to Reuben? Anybody remember?
He dishonored the covenant.
He dishonored the covenant. No.
Took his dad's concubine.
Yeah, he slept with his dad's wife. He uncovered his dad's nakedness, right?
So he dishonored the covenant,
He also dishonored his father. So you know that blessing.
which is part of the
Yeah.
covenant.
Yeah.
There goes the
And
fifth
I-
commandment. There goes the fifth commandment. Honor your father and mother.
Out the door.
The Bible says he uncovered his father's nakedness. That means he slept with his father's concubine.
Wait, so when Ham, it was a Ham, right?
Yeah.
So he also slept with Noah's wife.
Yeah, some say it was his son, not necessarily. But anyway, that's a different story. But yeah, that's exactly right.
So it
When
wasn't.
the Bible talks about
He didn't take off Noah's clothes.
no, that's a misunderstanding. To uncover someone's nakedness means to sleep with them or to rape them, something along those lines. Yeah, the father's wife. So one of the children takes the father's wife, and that means to uncover their nakedness.
So immorality.
Simeon,
Wow.
They raided the town.
yeah, you remember the name of the town?
He dishonored the covenant.
What was the name of the town?
Remember they had a sister.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they didn't they circumcise?
No, Dina.
The sister Dina. Dinah.
You're making fun of me.
Dina. I'm just gonna leave it at Di. That's Spanish. If you don't like it. Dina.
Dina.
Right. Dina was raped by the prince of Shechem, or by one of the kings of Shechem.
I read that she wasn't really raped, that she
Yeah, possibly. There's a possibility that she gave herself.
She gave herself.
Yeah. In any case, she was dishonored. So the men of Shechem came to Jacob, to Israel, and they said, "We want to do right. My son wants to marry your daughter, and betroth to take her for himself." And this guy said, "No, because you guys are uncircumcised. So therefore, if you want to be part of our family, you need to circumcise, take on the covenant." So they did that. The whole town, all the males in the town circumcised, and while they were in their healing process, Simeon and Reuben and Levi
Dishonored the covenant.
went in and broke their father's word and killed all the men and raided the city, burnt it with fire. Right? Because of it, Simeon loses the firstborn right, and Levi as well. So the next one in line is Judah.
So the
he
father
gets,
can determine who gets the firstborn.
of course.
Oh yeah.
You have to earn the firstborn right. It's not given freely. You have to earn it. Firstborn right is earned,
So it's
just
not by
as Torah.
It's not by default.
It is not. It falls by default to the firstborn, but then the firstborn has to earn it.
What if it's a one-child or?
So the reason why Joseph got the second part of the firstborn blessing is because he was sold out into Egypt, and the famine came, and all of that stuff. They lost their land, really, in Canaan, temporarily anyway. Until the time of Moses, they lost the land in Canaan, so they went under the house and the authority of Joseph. So because Joseph now became the leader of their house, the father had to give him the authority that was due to him. He had already instated Judah to be the firstborn leader of the house, but now Joseph becomes the head of the house. Therefore, the father gives him the double blessing. Right? So in essence, Joseph inherited the land of Israel.
Wow.
Okay? So the leader of the land of Israel is not Judah, it's Joseph. Right? Israel, out in the
Why
nations.
did the father separate the blessings?
Why did the father separate the blessings? Because he
Why
was
did
still
he
alive.
separate
While he was still alive, he could do that. second thing, he had given already the blessing to Judah
The firstborn.
as a firstborn, right? And Judah was doing the right things, right, to keep it. So he wasn't going to take the firstborn blessing from Judah, but what he could do is divide the firstborn blessing into two and give the second part of the firstborn blessing to Joseph.
The double portion.
Yeah, the double portion.
Like they both got double portion. Judah and...
Judah didn't get double portion.
From what you said, the thing was split just now.
The double blessing was split. The rule went to Judah, and the land went to Joseph. The rule of the house.
But they're both firstborn, right?
Yeah, they're both part of the firstborn, right? But they're different. So Judah gets one part, just as all the other brothers. They all get one part except for Joseph, who gets double.
But didn't Judah commit adultery?
Judah didn't commit adultery. He was tricked with Tamar.
Yeah.
But that was a righteous thing to do.
And he married her anyway.
He married her. Yep.
Have a look. There is, even if you wanted to go and talk about more blessings with Joseph, the two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, they actually get put into the 12 tribes.
Yeah.
And two of the other are taken out, aren't they?
Not taken out. That's a misconception.
Really?
Dan doesn't appear in the book of Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the translators didn't translate it properly.
Oh, okay.
Right? Actually says that there will be judgment. You know, on the same passage, talking about the judges.
Yep.
Judging. Well, the word Dan means judge.
Yeah. So you don't get to see.
So he is there, Dan is there, but you can't understand it because they haven't translated it properly. Dan is there in the book of Revelation.
Fair enough.
The judges.
Yep.
So that means at the end of Revelation there's 14.
Now there's 13 tribes.
13, but
Including the Levites.
13 tribes, including the Levites. Oh, the Levites are mixed within the other tribes. But there's 13 tribes, 12 tribes of Israel. And Joseph is divided into two. Manasseh and Ephraim. All right, let's pray. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we give you thanks for this beautiful Shabbat, for your word that you have sent to us. We ask, Father, that you will fulfill the purpose for which you sent it to us, and that you would remind us of the things that you want us to remember and change our lives, our character, our nature, just as you did with Jacob when you made him Israel. May you also change our nature and make us according to your perfect will, whatever you will from us. Father, I pray that your word might go forth and that you might be glorified in everything that we learned today. And all glory and honor goes to you. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen. Amen. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.